I don't know if this is categorized as a disaster movie, or this is, I would more so categorize this as an adventure movie, if anything.
It's a monster movie.
Oh, okay.
It follows the same structure, and it's exactly.
Gen Wars. Welcome back to Gen Wars, the combative and sometimes agreeable podcast between the Gen Xers and the millennials. I'm Nick, and today we're here with my co-host, Steven. Say hi to the folks, Steven.
Hello. Are you ready to talk about a movie?
Oh, we're going to talk about a movie, all right. We're talking about 1996's Twister. Steven's got some props here. He actually has a VHS copy of the movie. Steven has never seen this movie, or he said he's seen it in pieces. Is that correct here?
I'll break down my long history with Twister and its legacy on the outskirts of my watch circle.
Okay, excellent. So we've developed a system to keep us on track during this. We've highlighted some topics that we can come up with a score at the end of this. Those topics are nostalgia, production value, spirit, re-watchability, and our overall thoughts. And that altogether will give us our final score of what we think of this movie. Before we get into that, make sure you like and subscribe, as well as go over to the Funky store and get some nostalgia merch. Steven has created some beautiful nostalgia merch that will make your summertime, wintertime, whenever you get there, it will make it even better. That being said, there's no spoiler warnings here because this movie came out in 1996. So if you haven't seen this movie, I don't know what to tell you at this point.
What are you doing? Go watch the movie.
The cast of this movie: Helen Hunt, Bill Paxton, Cary Elwes, Jamie Gertz, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, to name a few. Also directed by Jan de Bont, who is a fantastic director as well as cinematographer. And we'll get into those during those sections. He's also was a cinematographer for Die Hard, Ruthless People, Hunt for Red October, Flatliners, Basic Instinct, Lethal Weapon 3. He also directed Speed 1 and 2 and The Haunting. So the man has some credits behind him. So let's get into the nostalgia of this all. Steven, hit him with your nostalgia for this movie.
All right, so this is my parents' absolute favorite movie of all time. Maybe okay, more than Top Gun. My dad fancies himself a storm chaser. He's like a certified watcher for tornadoes and stuff. He has a little sticker on his car and whatnot. So this movie has always been on in my house, but it's not something I ever sat down and watched. So I would catch things like, "Oh, you guys are watching this movie again? You guys sure like this movie?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's like the best movie. I can't believe you just won't sit down and watch it." So that kind of just happened forever throughout my childhood. Okay. And now that I've seen it, I'm just absolutely floored that I haven't watched it before. And I really see why my parents enjoyed it so much, because we were doing very similar stuff with paleontology. I'm Midwest homegrown, I'm basically corn for all intents and purposes. But we would go out into the Badlands of Arkansas and in Kansas into these dusty outcroppy areas with these vehicles and these college nerds, and just do that the scene where they're just at all the cars are pulled up in the campsite and they're just messing with stuff. Yep. That's exactly what we were doing throughout my childhood. We would go out to these farmlands in Kansas and dig in the rocks, and then we would get these big plaster jackets of fossils, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, there's the fossils, this we've got to take it up to the museum and get it checked out." It's the exact same energy that these storm chasers have, just coming out of college or in college and stuff like that. Just real goober nerd energy. So
all that really hit home for you.
Oh yeah. It
nice.
When Nick said we're gonna watch this, I was like, I swear to God, if it takes place in New York or on the coast, I'm just automatically out. But I believe it takes place in Oklahoma, Is that what I saw?
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was immediately reassured like that this wasn't going to be just like a completely asinine like rendition of what tornadoes are. So like pretty good nostalgia like overall just from my personal history with it, but also really fancying that time period and understanding like Midwest tornado like impact.
Yeah, you get when you go into the tornado movies that are on the coasts, they're more in the Sharknado realm.
Sharknado, exactly. Like, we don't know what tornadoes are.
We're just gonna throw some sharks in there. It'll be a great time.
Have you ever had a tornado where you are?
Near me. So that's this movie. So my nostalgia for this is this came out when I was 16. By that time, or at that time, we had only had a hurricane that was like the biggest thing that had happened. In now being 44, we've had I will say maybe a handful of tornado warnings and maybe a handful of actual small tornadoes that have happened, but I live on the East Coast, so I'm going to rely on you in I guess for parts of this. Did they hit that spirit and things right in this movie? Because I don't experience that. We experience a hurricane every now and again, and then we get a lot of snow and rain, and that's about all we get. So my nostalgia for this movie was it always kind of put that little seed in my head that I wanted to go chase tornadoes because it looked so much fun. Just driving across the plains, hoping to, intercept or at least film and do some photography with that. But other than that, no, I have zero tornado history, if you will.
Yeah.
So
that's funny that you want to do. So, Daniel from the More Than Roommates podcast, which you can check out. He is my brother. He actually was a reporter for a while and had to be in like the storm chasing vehicle and go out to these things in Kansas. So like this all is like pretty like close to home, and like I have experience with it. It's not so much a ethereal thing. So very, very cool.
There was in the mid 2000s, maybe early 2010s, Discovery did a short documentary series about storm chasing, and they brought vehicles that like clamped to the ground, and so they could try to get inside. They armored it up and everything. So that reinforced this movie and my want and desire to go run into a storm like an idiot.
It's nice. Yeah, because didn't they have like the Dominator and Dominator 2 or whatever? I think I know the exact show you're talking about.
Yes, I believe it had a silly name like that, something like that. But it
that
had like excavator clamps to grab onto the ground and everything.
Yeah, I believe that was on at my house a lot.
So yeah, that's kind of where
and it kind of fell into this. So like my parents were just so into it, and I was just, because they were so into it, I was like,
I'm surprised you never sat down and watched them. So I guess when we get to that place, I'm going to ask you about that. But I'm surprised you never sat down and was like, oh, let's see what this is. Like, it's closer in your realm of scope of where you live than me, where again, this is I don't want to say this is a fantasy, but this is something that happens way over there, nowhere near me. So,
it's probably the same mindset that I have with Big Bang Theory. Like, Big Bang Theory has never been funny or interesting to me, because it's just normal. It's not. It's like that's stuff that may or may not have happened to me in those like sitcom situations. Like, this isn't. What's so funny about it? So I think it's maybe kind of like the same thing. It's like, we get storms all the time. Like there was a tornado last week. Like it's like, just go outside if you want that. Like, go touch grass and go in a tornado if you want that. Why do I need to watch a movie?
There'll be one tomorrow. Head out there.
Right.
I don't know if this is categorized as a disaster movie, or I would more so categorize this as an adventure movie, if anything.
It's a monster movie.
Oh, okay.
It
I
follows
could,
the same
yeah.
structure, and it's exactly, you have like the first encounter, you have like the researchers and like the knowledgeable people, and then you have like the every person that's getting like introduced to the creature and what it can do, why they're researching the creature. It's a monster movie. It's filmed the
Okay.
exact same way. It's structured and paced the exact same way, where you have like the calm, and then like boom, the attacks again, and there's the creature. Like it's a Godzilla movie or anything of the like. It's a monster movie.
Okay, that's perfect. I didn't put it in that box or that framework, and that really does. Because again, I'm trying to find like it's not a disaster movie because we're not running from it; we're actually chasing it. But a lot of it lands in that adventure realm of like, let's go after this thing. Let's where is it gonna come? Where is it gonna be next? How do we? And so that's kind of where they're adventuring to get to that next spot.
I'm trying to
tornado.
like figure out where I came to that epiphany. I think there was some trailers on this DVD that it was like
Yep.
like nature is truly horrifying or something like that. It's like they're selling it like a monster movie. It makes so much sense.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. Yeah. Okay, so I will put in my nostalgia rating for this as a 7. Because I came out at that 16 years old. It was fun. I didn't know at the time, but it landed in that monster realm. I used to watch Godzilla movies and all those, all that stuff. So it really resonated with me. And it was fun. It was engaging. They also, and this will go into the next section, but the sound of the actual tornadoes lands in the monster realm as well. But so I'm going to give this nostalgia rating for this movie a 7.
Yeah, I put it squarely at a 7 as well. It's always been kind of like my parents' movie, a movie that they liked. So it's always been in like the back of my mind is something I should watch and should see, and everything about it applies to me. I should have been interested. I should have watched it at any point from when it came out when I was 5 years old till now. It's actually probably a crime on my part for me to taken this long to see it.
I don't want to watch your movies, Mom and Dad.
Well, yeah, that's what it. That was always kind of like I was like just kind of a punk, I guess.
Okay, well, so now that we have our production value score, let's move into nostalgia score. Let's move into the production value. And what's your take on the production value for this movie?
So I have to give it a grain of salt. The CGI wasn't good, and it was very promoted as good CGI. This came out after Jurassic Park. Practical effects, great. The tornado itself was pretty good. CGI cow kind of took me out of it. There was some of the truck.
I think that was a little more gimmicky.
Yeah, it was like, oh, this will look great in the trailer, and we can like promote the
or the
special
poster.
Like at the top of the DVD, it's like a Gale Force movie. The special effects are spectacular. I'm sure they were. I'm sure they were for the time. That
for 1996, they were still really good. Like that was still. Yes, Jurassic Park just came out. I mean, okay. So this is where I faltered, and I don't recall who put this out.
Warner Brothers.
This is actually production value, and this is a Stephen Gripe. Guess who produced this movie?
I know who produced
or what is one of the producers. Your favorite person in the world, Kathleen Kennedy.
She was so good for so long, and then she was handed the best franchise she could be handed and to control, and I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Because I was excited, like just a little bit of a pivot. I was so excited when she was handed the reins. I really was. It was 2014.
Okay, so this is...
And I was like,
Amblin,
yeah, she's directed... She's been a producer on, like, everything that's good. And then she pulled the George Lucas. When she had absolute control, it just fell apart. So, side note.
Yes. Okay. I saw that, and I was like, well, we're just going to...
I saw it, too. It was like from the producer of Jurassic Park and Speed. I was like, or the producer of Jurassic Park and the director of Speed. I was like, wait a minute. I know this motley crew. I know who this is.
So this was Amblin Entertainment, which is
Spielberg's
company. But the question, did they go to ILM for this? Because didn't Jurassic Park go to ILM?
Yeah, I don't think
Pull
this
that-
is ILM.
That physical. Again, in 1996, or 1993, we had crested that hump with the dinosaurs. I'm assuming weather events and stuff were a little harder to make than a physical being.
But they were
maybe
fine. It was some of like the over the top like if I'm remembering correctly, like it was the cow. The intro was rough. The 3D text was really bad, but I started listening to the commentary version, and they said like, oh yeah, this was like the only thing we farmed out.
Oh, they didn't even do that in-house.
Right. Okay. So like, they kind of said like, we're not really responsible for it without like knocking on it. So I thought that was interesting. Little thing about that.
Weather events, weather and water and those things took a long time to get looking right for a while, I think, at least in my recollection of
sure. So
how
that's like the cows and the
time.
Sister tornadoes wasn't so great, but
yeah,
like when it came through the drive-through, it was great. Like put it at nighttime. It's usually dark when tornadoes strike. Like this broad daylight tornadoes was a little like I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. But like you had every opportunity to kind of mask any digital yuckiness. They didn't do it every time. And honestly, I'm really fixating on it, but it's such a small facet. All of the practical effects were great. All of the sets were fantastic. Like when they were in Auntie's house, like I've been to that house. That is a Midwest, like everybody come in, like we just killed an animal in the farm, like we're about to eat good. Like I'm glad you're here. We got eggs. Everybody take food home. Like it was so real. Like the little scrap pile that they were with the trucks, and they were like messing with stuff, and they had things out on the hoods. Like all the cars were right. Like I mean, they were set in the like they set it in current era then. But it's truly a period piece. Which is if we want to talk about the remake, that would be my greatest. Don't do that. But
we'll get to that.
Everything else is fantastic. Everything the world felt lived in. The costuming was good. Like they even they have all the junker vehicles, and old dude pulls up in his nice truck that was like basically like I was like, okay, that truck's gonna be used. Like that's like I could see all of that as it was happening, and it was perfect. I loved it.
Well, he got his weatherman money because he was going to go be a weatherman. That's why he was getting his divorce and leaving the crew. And all your points about the aunt's house and it made me feel at home. It made me feel like I was there with those production value things. This movie was shot beautifully. Jan de Bont shoots a movie beautifully. I know he wasn't the cinematographer for this movie, but I'm sure he went, hey, this is what I want. Go film this exactly like this. The amount of helicopter shots in this movie is insane. It is just like flyover. We got to chase these cars driving down these dirt roads in the middle of Oklahoma. How do we do that? It's 1996. We don't have drones. And we can't run a car through someone's field, so get the helicopter out. Just before we were filming this, I pulled up the movie, and they have this helicopter shot that's coming at the truck. And you can actually, if you look close enough, you can see the helicopter rotor blades in the reflection there. So, but just it looks fantastic. And yeah, the storms in 1996 looked good at the time. In 2024, they definitely suffer a little bit, but at the same time, they are, again, that small part. They're chasing it. We see them for a minute, two at the most, and then they're off, whatever, and we're on to the next adventure.
And if Jurassic Park didn't exist, this is a completely different conversation. Like it's true. It's just I have to use that as the period technology benchmark. I just have to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we would go right into The Matrix, which came out in 98, 2 years later.
I think so. Pretty close, if not 97, but 97, 98, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I know technology goes fast, but like not that much faster.
Yeah.
And yes, they were using different techniques. Like they were doing the room of cameras, a circle of cameras, or whatever to pull all that stuff off. But at the same time, you were doing so well with your practical effects. You were doing so well with the storm at night and creating the atmosphere that the big CGI shots just kind of missed for me.
I think that's where this came out in May.
Mm-hmm.
May. So right at the beginning of summer blockbuster season. And so, yeah, they needed some of those. They couldn't, for as scary as the drive-in shot was, you had to put in some of those, big blockbuster tornadoes whipping through, in order to, kind of have that summer blockbuster feel to it, as well as how they shot it. They shot the, off the front of the car, into the windshield, nice tight shots. Everyone's, I don't want to say panicking, but they're in action all the time because this movie goes. It doesn't stop. When we say, oh, there's a tornado, it stops for a few moments.
We're watching Speed, the movie again.
What?
We're watching Speed.
This, I think I even wrote that down, that this is Speed. It goes from jump and we don't stop until the very end of the movie when everyone can rest peacefully. I mean, it takes place in one day.
Oh, yeah.
This movie is, I don't, so this is, I guess, let's, okay, so hold on. Before we go there, production value score. What's your production value score for this?
As much as I complained, I gave it a 9.
Oh, gave it a 9. Okay. I gave it a 7.5.
Okay. You probably have a little bit
I'm
more understanding of cinematography and effort behind what they could or could not do there. So that tracks for me.
It was more so, I guess, like some of the CG knocked that down. I guess I wasn't trying to give it a huge score, but I mean, I could bump it up a little bit. I'm not opposed to bumping it up.
I think that was my only complaint was the CG. Like if you did, like I didn't see, it wasn't like in Star Wars, like where they have like really, like I felt immersed. There wasn't any immersion breaking.
Yes.
And that's all the production value I need is to be completely immersed in your movie.
Okay.
So there wasn't anything that really stood out to me besides the egregious CG. There wasn't a prop out of place. There wasn't a costume design I didn't fall in love with. It was great.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna knock it up a 0.5. I like an 8, a solid 8 round number. I like that. Not far off from where I landed. Because you're right, it is an immersion filled movie. Like it throws you in the middle of this thing that for me I have no bearing or no understanding of other than watching the news of it. So this will lead us into Spirit. Do they capture the understanding of a tornado, the fear of a tornado, all of the things that come with living in the Midwest and having this thing happen at any there's a season. This is why we're doing this. Partly why we're doing this movie is because we're in tornado season right now. Mm-hmm. Does this, or hopefully when you're watching this, when this comes out, we're in tornado season. Does this capture all of those things? Because being an East Coast boy, I see it on the news, and I move on with my life.
So with like the spirit of the film. So to me, the spirit of the film, it's a monster movie, Conquer the Monster. The introduction is her dad was taken from her in a tornado. Like he sacrificed himself to keep them safe and save the dog. Like, like it's the John Wick origin story kind of like
that really sets this movie, the tone of this movie off right at the beginning.
Yeah, just like in Tremors, like you got the first kill by the creature that kind of like sets the story in motion. And it was emphasized there was no warning. It was just a random monster attack. There was no heads up. There was nothing that could be done. And you could see that was her life journey. From that moment was like, how do we warn people that the monster is coming? They stuck to that plot point 80% of the time. As far as capturing like the lifestyle of like dealing with tornadoes, I wouldn't know, because we've always had these warning systems. We have monthly tests where they every Monday of the month they go, they kick up. Like, we have so many protocols and procedures. It would like 99% of the time nothing happens, but we know, we are completely aware, we're tracking, we have all this technology. But that's where this came from. So if we were living in a world without that technology, the time before we had this technology, that's what it would be like. It'd just be like, oh my God, we got like, someone sees the tornado, it's already on top of us, get to cover wherever you can, and it's just utter panic.
Yeah, so I mean, like, when we have a hurricane, we know it's coming. Like, we know, like, it's coming for a while. Or the snow, we know it's coming for a while, so we all have time to prepare for that. To me, an outsider, this feels like they nailed that, that spirit of this. There was a question I had for you. Oh, the drive-in theater. They know, again, Oklahoma's a big place, so they're traversing miles. If there's storms, these big storm cells in the area, would they continue to have outdoor activities during a situation like this?
Oh, storms can pop up so quick. Like how far a travel, they can form right on top of you.
Tell us, weatherman Steven.
It's perfectly reasonable to have everyone at a drive-in theater, and the storm is just like, oh, it's going to be like a cell is forming on top of us. Get to cover, get in a ditch. That is completely reasonable. I've been out in my pool, enjoying the day, and it's just like, oh, it's going real green, and we barely have time to get inside. And now that's just for a storm. But yeah, pop-up thunderstorms are totally a thing.
Okay. Interesting. I was thinking about that. Like, does that actually, where, I guess here, we have days of warning, and then it snows and we're all just doing our normal thing because we know it's not going to be a big event. Or it might be a big event, but we know we can manage through it. Where I figured the same, but I wasn't quite sure. Again, I don't live there, so I have.
Yeah, I've been times where like the forecast is like, no, it's going to be great all day. It's like, okay, I'm going to paint outside, and then like they're like, it's not going to be okay. And then a storm comes and blows my umbrella that I'm using to stay in the shade. I'm like, we were good. What happened? Like,
okay.
Because this is where the stuff forms. So like a lot there's like long-term predictions that can get that stuff, and it's usually accurate. But back then, heck no.
Yeah. In 1990s, it was just a crapshoot.
When we were hunting out in Kansas, where we were in the Badlands of western Kansas, my dad would have to have the weather radio on all the time because we're in this little pop-up. If something was forming, we would have to collapse it down, push it into one of, like, the barns are more like aircraft hangars, so we would have to get it in there and like hunker down and stuff. We only had to do that a couple times, but it was just like we had to be vigilant. I remember distinctly, it looked like a big 90s phone, but it was a weather radio. It just like constantly just like severe weather in these locations. X county. Please seek shelter. And it's like, okay, well,
that's got to be terrifying, I guess.
Yeah,
someone who doesn't experience that, like,
there's
I can see
no
how that
internet.
would be
There's no TV broadcast. That's because there's like what is it? It wasn't Ransom, Kansas. It was somewhere like there. Like it's like a 200 population. Like the town in Tremors.
Small.
Like.
Okay. Yeah.
That's where we were. But then it's all the farmers. So there's the little town that all the farmers come in on. They've got like 1,000 acres of land before they hit another farm. And if there's a drive-through theater there, that's probably 1,000 acres away from something. Like, yeah, completely reasonable in that aspect of the spirit of like what a tornado could be. That was nailed. where I think this movie kind of falls away from the spirit, because it's really her movie. It's her story of like giving the future warning. And they
Yeah.
kind of reverse it about it being their marriage story, but focusing on his journey back into his passion. I didn't like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
It felt weird. It felt it just didn't feel like it was g- focusing on like, why are we all like, oh, if there was more scenes like, why didn't we work? Because she's like, I'm trying to help people, and you want to go off and do your own. Maybe it was there, but it felt like most of the dialogue and most of it just came into like his like, oh, I gotta find myself, and oh, I really am passionate about this. So maybe because she was like true to her storyline and her through line, we didn't get to focus on like her struggle through this.
Okay.
Because it was just a little bit funky in some of the scenes with their relationship, like, and him losing his fiance and stuff like that. It's just like, whatever. She served as a great, like, for us to get integrated as the audience into the situation.
Yes.
But otherwise than that,
Especially
like,
this
it was a little bit comic relief. Where he could have done that without her, and then it would be less about their relationship and more about like, hey, I care more about making Dorothy fly rather than repairing our relationship. And now that I have acknowledged like this is what I want to do, our relationship works, rather than like I want to fix our relationship. I'm gonna like it was just a little bit of hinkiness there as far as like the spirit of the movie. I didn't get that.
She had been making that even prior to him leaving. I don't think she had it set.
No,
by the time
he designed it with her. Like they were working on this together. They were working on this. This is what they were doing, and then he left.
Yeah, and so she made it happen.
And she stuck with it. So it's really truly her story. So him being like kind of the action hero.
I mean, it is Bill Paxton, so I mean,
yeah. Maybe it's just his personal presence that I was just like he's kind of like
so.
monopolizing the screen time. But yeah,
I
think
see
he
what you're
should have
saying,
died.
I
think that's what would have done it for me.
Ooh.
If he had died. Like
Man,
because then it would be full circle. Like she lost her father, she lost her husband, ex-husband, love of her life, but she achieved the mission. She got Dorothy up, and she defeated the monster and gave all of the future. Like it felt like a really, really feely 90s ending at the end there, where like everything's just a little. They didn't lose a single person of their team. Everyone that kind like just
the bad guys
Dread Pirate
died.
Roberts
the bad
was
guys.
the only. Yeah, the bad guy was the only one that died. Yeah,
he got sucked in the tornado. But it's the ending of Speed as well. Like he did the same exact ending for Speed.
Yeah.
That he did for rewind. He did the exact same ending here that he did for Speed.
Right. Yeah, I just it was a little too happy for my perfect monster. It could have very well been my perfect monster movie. Like
Okay.
Easily able to say that. I think it just kind of that middle. Now the middle section was okay. Like that last little bit felt like they were kind of losing themselves in this like action hero. Like that's where I think the identity crisis starts to kick on. Like I think everyone should see this and be like, oh, it's a monster movie. I totally get it. But now it's like a weird romantic action thriller. Like it kind of loses that because of that dynamic, in my opinion. Trying to make him the star, where it's really her story, her narrative, like her objective. And it always was throughout the movie, but it just kind of like got backburnered for some reason for him to have his story arc. A little weird.
Okay. So what's your overall number for this?
I gave it a 7 for Spirit. Just for that like 3/4 of the way fumble, where I think it was really easy to give her the complete arc. And I guess you could have given him the complete arc. It was kind of more like her leaving gave him freedom rather than him choosing this life and choosing to achieve this. So that's the only place I take off as far as like it didn't necessarily know what story it wanted to tell. It had a really good story to tell. They told it for a majority of it, and then they kind of got lost in the sauce a little bit.
Okay. And I also think they did a really good job like developing and building that team camaraderie outside of, even with them, not even just outside of them, but with the good guys and the bad guys with Cary Elwes and his characters. They had their own team and fighting against them, fighting them in conjunction with fighting this monster. But that you felt part of that team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were that ragtag bunch of people. So I think they really grabbed that.
The
So
underdogs.
I gave this, yes, absolutely. I gave this a 7 as well. So we can land in the 7 zone for this across the board. So for rewatchability, what do you say for rewatchability in this lovely 1996 masterpiece?
I think it's a fantastic period piece. I think it's a top tier monster movie. I think that's one that you could just put on and just like, man, yeah, that's like a good movie. It's a great time capsule. It's a really compelling story. There's stuff that I missed. There's stuff that I really want to go back and see. It's simple. It is a simple story.
Yeah.
I think it's just objectively enjoyable, though. I think almost anyone could watch this and just be entertained. I love
It's
like
a summer blockbuster.
It's a summer
blockbuster.
It's really a top tier summer blockbuster. Top tier. Like I would love to go see this at a drive-in theater. Like if they're like, we're doing a special screening of the original Twister, I was like, you want to go? I kind of want to go. I want to go see that. I'll put out some extra dollars to go experience this. I think it's a 10. I definitely rewatching it. I think I will be watching it frequently because it's great. It's
Okay.
I've done myself a disservice in not watching it, so I will have to make up for lost time. I think this is one of the few that I can rate that highly that we might do on this program because, dang.
My rewatchability lands at an 8. Not that that's a bad thing. That's still solid. It's not one that I mean, obviously, this movie's been in my life for a long time. I've rewatched it 100 times over, whether it's on TV or it's pop it on or something like that. I hadn't watched it in a long time, and as soon as I put it on, all those awesome nostalgia feelings of me watching it in 1996 came back, and I'm like, oh yeah, this movie is just pure. I'm going to say pure stupid fun, and I don't mean that as an insult, but it's just pure turn your brain off and have a great time watching these people chase this storm system across Oklahoma for a day. And I would rewatch it anytime. If you were like, we're going to watch Twister tonight, absolutely. Like I said, if they put it at the drive-in, I'm going to be a little scared that there might be a tornado behind the theater, behind the screen, but I'm still going every time. Even I have it up right now, just kind of playing in the background, and I'm like, here comes this part. I love, I absolutely adore this movie.
Yeah, I think there's just so much to it, and I guess we're just gonna go kind of like smooth ride into overall thoughts and stuff.
Yes,
like some of my notable scenes is like the rescue mission for the auntie that like her house was devastated, and they added
I forgot
the
about
CRT,
that, totally.
The CRT suspended by the coaxial. Like that is a unique situation. Like nobody truly knows that's younger the weight of those. I know. I've lifted quite a few of them. That was a honker too. That was like probably 300 pounds of death looming over of a collapsed home that tornadoes do. We had a huge tornado come through in 2012, something like that. Just completely devastated homes and stuff around me, and that's what they looked like. I don't think we had any casualties, not to speak ill or downplay like the risk and stuff, or the threat.
Yeah, but
it just goes into like this is a real event that happens, and it was captured, and it was like thrilling, and it plays a really good summer blockbuster monster flick. Like Godzilla, the Cloverfield monster, that's not going to happen to me. You know, that there's just like no chance that that's going to happen. Some radiate, like something's not going to emerge from underneath Chernobyl that's been cooking for however long, devastating across the world. Tornado will happen. A tornado will happen to me at any given moment. But it's still like a good film. It's taking something that is real, and it's taking something. They didn't even like parody too much here. Like they didn't like over the only thing was the cow. The cow thing was weird. They suspend and that's another reason that I kind of knocked points off where I did. There was a lot of weight physics that I questioned, like if like so that fence posts are being pulled off and stuff like that. You're pretty much on the ground. You're falling and tumbling. Like if a cow is being like circulated,
they're running along that fence and they're just being plucked out of the ground, but their weight
a little bit of parody,
not...
so maybe I'll backtrack my statement about, but like the risk or like the situations themselves are very, very realistic. They could happen to anyone in the Midwest and have to deal with that. But some of the weight physics, like where the cars are like the cars getting whipped up like 5 feet, like what is that, like a half-ton truck just getting just like
or the tanker, the tanker truck that like, I mean I'm sure it happens, I'm sure it definitely happens, but I mean we're in that 96 realm of we can drop a physical tanker on the ground from cables and stuff, but then we have to make it fly through the air and have the same weight and physics as it drops. A little suspension of disbelief for the fun of it. Right. I'm like, okay.
But I feel like there's ways to do, like if it like rolled into play rather than just being dropped. Like
I think that would have made it landed.
It makes more sense that way. Like, oh, it's built up momentum. It's been rolling. It's like
it's full of gas.
Right. It's just like it was a cool scene. You can't like. It was the action again. The little bit of the. I feel like when you're talking about a monster movie, you have a level of disbelief, like you have to believe that there's a monster in doing the things, but a really grounded monster movie. I'll lean into Godzilla -1, where everything makes sense and there isn't like the ludicrous like scenes just kind of for like there's an explosion. But if you do it with a little more grounded in reality, into the physics of the world that you've built, it hits real good. So this is where it kind of let me down a little bit. Again, I'm nitpicking, but I'm a serial hater. Even now, on the things that I enjoy.
They did add with the thought or the understanding now that we're in a we're in a monster movie. The tornadoes themselves, the sound design, and I know I was going to talk about this during production value, but I forgot to get to there. It sounds like the biggest, baddest monster. It growls, and I don't know if you've been in a actual or near a tornado. I'm assuming it doesn't growl. I'm just assuming it's loud and wind whipping around.
Who's to say? like it's such a sensory experience because the closest we got hit pretty good. It was mostly straight line winds, but it ripped. Like my wife, we weren't even married. We were barely dating at the time. And this goes into like how into it my dad is. She was trying to like get home before he's like, too late. You're staying here. It's like my dad is like, let a teen like he's like, you're staying the night here, and no, you're not, because she had a 94 Geo Metro. That thing would have.
Oh geez, yeah, that would have been gone.
But it's just sounds because you got the house groaning, you got the bricks ripping off the house and hitting on that, you got the trees snapping and like electricity going. So like, who's to say you don't hear some growling
so it has,
in there? It's whipping through things.
The sensory experience of it all sounds
your brain
like
is going to make up wild stuff. Plus it's just like wind, just like like it's wild. It is a wild experience.
All right. Well, then they've done a great job at capturing that overall experience, because it terrified the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to be anywhere near that, especially if it's doing that, which it probably is not, but the overall experience sounds like it is. My overall for this, I'm going to put it at an 8. For the go-go nature of this movie, the summer blockbuster of it all. It's fun, enjoyable, and it's that fun adventure movie. And now that I have it as a monster movie, which I didn't, again, it took me 44 years, or no, maybe not 44 years, whatever, 2024 to 1996 is, to put it as a monster movie, and I didn't frame it as that, and that makes so much more sense.
If I can do the work of explaining, like really selling that concept, if it's not obvious to everyone,
yeah,
then I'm doing my part.
Yeah, no, I might have a talk with a few of my friends who also enjoy this movie. For who was one of them was like, "Wait, you're watching Twister? Why?" And I was like, and I after I started watching it, I'm like, "No, this movie is a lot stupid fun." And he was like, "Yeah, no, it really is." Like he came
really
around to
good.
that. But I don't know if he thinks about it in that context of it being this monster movie.
Because my favorite monster movie is Tremors. Which you would squarely put in that stupid fun category. I would put it more squarely than Twister, because I think Twister is actually really just a good, thrilling monster movie. Maybe more akin to like a -0 or Godzilla 2014. I know people are here and there on it. But
is it -1 or -0?
I thought it was -1, because they were already at 0 when Hiroshima and all that happened, and then when Godzilla.
I still haven't watched it yet. Oh, I know, I have to get on it. I stuck it on the watch list. I just need to have the time. I
think it's the best Godzilla movie. Period.
I love those movies, and I wanna give it the time it deserves, because I've heard such good things about it, and I'm a fan of Godzilla movies. All right, let's get back to the overall thoughts. So, my overall thoughts, I landed at an 8. Where do you land?
I gave it a 9. It kind of pushes all my buttons exactly how I want to be pushed when I hit play on a movie.
Okay.
It's a 90s period piece. It is a monster movie. It's Midwest done right. It's got a great cast. It's competently executed.
Yeah.
All you would have to do is like remaster some of the CGI scenes, and it'd be a perfect movie. I think it'd be one of the best movies.
Yeah. All right. So we have our 5 categories, right?
Yep.
We got 5 categories. What does your overall score come out to be for this movie?
My overall score comes out at a 42 out of 50, putting this at 84%, if I did my math right.
84%.
Yes, which I think is
okay.
Probably as high as I can rate anything on this show. I might straight up say.
Okay. My was 38 out of 50, which puts me at a 76%, which I feel is good, but also like you've brought some things to light that I've changed some of my overall thoughts for this movie, and it bumped it up. When I came into this, I started at a 70, and then I was fiddling around with the numbers and thoughts, just kind of like, where would I put this? It dropped it down to about a 68, and then as we talked here, I'm like, nah, we're gonna nudge this back up. I stupidly love this movie, and if I go back and rewatch it again, I probably could nudge it up a couple more points, but we'll stay at my 76% right now. I think that's a solid. I think that's a solid number for this movie, and we'll happily fight for that number, or fight people for that number, because I know there's people who don't like this movie or think it's stupid, which. Hey, that's your cup of tea, it's your cup of tea.
Wrong.
Or if it's not your cup of tea, it's not your cup of tea.
I would love to know the arguments there on like the stupidity of it, because it's really not. It really is kind of like what they were like. It's fun. They made it a little bit more fun, and they like you could make a serious tone movie about this, and it would hit different. So I think it's good in all the right place. It's got curves where you want it. Like, it's great.
Yeah. It's you can think about it, and you can also just turn your brain off and watch it.
It's for everyone.
Yeah. It's for everyone. Yeah.
I should have known better. I'm so rarely wrong in my life, and I'm just befuddled on how I just let this one slide past, because I love Tremors. I love monster movies. I understand this like space of storm chasing. It's like part of like my childhood. Like, we were literally doing and dealing with these things. Why didn't I watch this movie? Don't know.
Have you told your parents yet that you watched it?
Oh yes. They gave me a lot of trouble. Well, but also I was able to diffuse them. I was like, okay, now I understand your opinions on the Twisters trailer, because yeah, like, no, yeah, that's not. I don't even want to talk about that. And they're like, don't mention the sequel either. I was like, okay, I won't do that.
So obviously, the decision to pick this movie was based on it's tornado season right now, or it's storm season right now. On top of you've been having over the past weeks and or so, we've been on phone calls that you're like, hey, I gotta go, I gotta get in the basement, and then obviously the Twisters remake. We'll call it a remake. Yeah, that's what it is. It's not a sequel. Is coming out to the theaters. Depending on when you watch this, should be in like a week or so. And so this was why we ended up choosing this movie specifically.
I will also say this is not on streaming anywhere. So I was originally going to watch this on VHS on a CRT. Luckily, my parents, this is their VHS that I stole, because they're like, we don't want VHSs anymore. I was like, I do. I'll take that. They had the DVD. This is the only way I was able to watch it without forking over like $5 to rent it.
Interesting. Okay.
Right. So like, I had to put this in my PlayStation. Get your physical media. Like, if you have physical media, you hold on to it. If you don't want to give Google or Bezos $5 every time you want to watch a movie, get this stuff quick.
Did you end up popping in the VHS just to see?
I have not yet. So the VHS player, I'm down to my last one, and it's upstairs. And I don't want to subject the kids to it because they have enough problems with tornadoes as is. So no accidental trauma.
Yes, let's not do that.
Nick, I had a great conversation here on this episode of Gen Wars, a combative conversation about movies and everything around cinema, nostalgia mostly, all the good things. Make sure you check out the rest of his channel, where Nick makes great playthings into display things, lots of fun things there. There's also the Was It Worth It series that has some interesting unboxings from a lot of different packages of mail of sorts. You can check that out. Also check out my channel, Funky Games, where we play through quintessential video games. At the time of recording, Nick just completed a playthrough of Blasphemous, which was a banging good time. Hopefully all those episodes are out by the time we're done here, but you can check out those videos. They're over on my channel, Funky Games, and go to the Funky Store, funky.store, where you can get your nostalgia merch. It helps both of our channels. It helps us do a lot of great things over here. Twister, fantastic movie. If you haven't watched it and you got all the way through here, watch the movie. What are you doing? Go watch it somehow, because it's a good flick. We also review other movies here on the channel. We went over Rise of the Beasts, which you should watch because there's a lot of hot takes in there.
There's a lot of hot takes in there.
Yeah. We also might be doing a short episode on the Twisters trailer, so you can check that out too. But there's a lot of stuff here on the channel. We love doing this. Reach out in the comments where we're wrong, and we'll talk about it. We'll break it down. Nick.
And if there's movies that you'd like to see us review and catch our hot takes on them, or bad takes or good takes, whatever kind of takes we got, leave them in the comments. We're calling together a list of movies. We're grabbing from here and there. So if you have something that you'd like us to go over and review, please leave it in the comments.
The next one. Thank you for having me.
See ya.
Bye.
Later.